The atmosphere at Paris Charles de Gaulle tonight didn't just feel like a standard airport arrival for an international athlete. It felt like the tectonic plates of the sporting world had shifted directly underneath the arrival gate. If you were anywhere near Terminal 2, you didn't need a flight schedule to know that something historic was happening. You could hear it from the taxi stands. You could feel it in the vibrating glass of the terminal windows. The air was thick with a level of anticipation that is usually reserved for World Cup winning teams or legendary pop stars on a farewell tour. But this wasn't a soccer team, and it wasn't a rock band. This was the arrival of Alexandra Eala, the pride of the Philippines, and the reception she received has quite literally sent shockwaves across the entirety of France. French news outlets, seasoned journalists, and local commuters were caught completely off guard as a sea of blue, red, and yellow descended upon the terminal. We are talking about a mobilization of fans that defies the conventional logic of tennis touring. Usually, tennis players slip into a city with a small entourage, a couple coaches, and maybe a few dedicated fans waiting for an autograph near the luggage carousel. Not tonight. Tonight, the Filipino diaspora in France, and indeed from across Europe, prove that Alex Eala is not just a tennis player. She is a cultural phenomenon, a beacon of national identity, and a global superstar whose gravity pulls thousands into her orbit. The French public, often known for their composed and somewhat reserved appreciation of tennis royalty, stood in stunned silence as nearly 50,000 Filipinos, some present at the airport and thousands more organizing across the city, made their presence known. The sheer volume of the chanting, the synchronized waving of flags, and the rhythmic beating of drums transformed a sterile transport hub into a roaring arena. It was a Rockstar arrival in every sense of the word, a moment where sport and culture collided so violently that the French media is currently scrambling to find the words to describe it. They are asking, who is this young woman who can command an army of 50,000 supporters before she even steps onto clay? How did the Philippines produce a talent that carries the weight of an entire nation's expectations with such grace? And more importantly, what does this mean for the upcoming tournament? The Alex Eala effect is no longer a localized trend in Southeast Asia. It has landed in Europe with the force of a hurricane. As she walked through those sliding doors, greeted by a wall of sound that could be heard in the heart of Paris, it became clear that the narrative of this tournament has changed. It is no longer just about backhands, volleys, and break points. It is about a movement. It is about the 50,000 Pinoys who are ready to turn every stadium into a home court for their champion. This is the story of a girl who conquered the junior circuits and is now ready to take the professional world by storm, backed by the most passionate fan base in the history of the sport. Welcome to our deep dive into the arrival that changed everything. To truly grasp why the streets of Paris are currently buzzing and why the French sporting establishment is in a state of genuine disbelief, we have to look far beyond the physical arrival at the airport. We have to dissect the layers of this story, starting with the evolution of Alexandra Eala herself. You see, the world of professional tennis is often criticized for being elitist, quiet, and perhaps a bit too rigid in its traditions. Then comes Alex Eala, a left-handed powerhouse from Quezon City who has spent the last several years proving that the old guard's expectations don't apply to her. Her journey to this moment in France began long before this week. It began at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Manicourt, where she honed a game that is as relentless as the support she receives. When she arrived in France this time, she wasn't just another entrant in the draw. She arrived as a symbol of the new Philippines, a nation that is increasingly becoming a powerhouse in individual global sports. The French media's shock stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of the Filipino spirit and the power of the diaspora. In France, tennis is a sport of boutiques and quiet applause. In the Philippines, sport is a communal celebration, a shared struggle, and a collective victory. When 50,000 Filipinos declare they are ready, they aren't just talking about buying tickets. They are talking about a logistical and emotional mobilization. They have organized caravans from the banlieues of Paris. They have coordinated across social media groups spanning from Marseille to Lyon to Nice. The French public is seeing a level of fandom that they usually only associate with the most elite football clubs in the Champions League. To see this directed at a tennis player, specifically a young Filipina athlete, has completely upended the social hierarchy of French sports. Let's talk about the airport scene specifically, because that is the epicenter of this current shockwave. Reports from ground staff suggest that security protocols had to be upgraded 3 times in the hours leading up to her landing. Why? Because the Pinoy power was underestimated. The French authorities expected a few hundred people. They got a crowd that rivaled a presidential inauguration. The Rockstar label isn't hyperbole. When Alexandra Eala stepped into the public view, the flashbulbs were so constant it looked like a strobe light. There were grandmothers who had traveled 6 hours by train just to hold up a sign saying, "Laban Alex." There were young children who see her as their version of a superhero. This level of devotion is rare in tennis. Usually, a player earns this after winning 10 Grand Slams. Alex has earned it by simply being the manifestation of a nation's dreams. The implications for the French tennis scene are massive. Tournament directors are now facing a unique challenge. How do you manage a crowd that is essentially a home crowd for a player who is thousands of miles from home? The energy in the stands is expected to be unlike anything Roland Garros or any French challenger event has ever seen. We are talking about a crowd that doesn't just clap for good points. They sing, they chant, and they provide an emotional shield for their player. This can be incredibly intimidating for her opponents. Imagine being a local French player, playing in your home country, only to realize that the entire stadium is vibrating with the cheers of 50,000 Filipinos who have effectively colonized the venue with their passion. The French press is calling it a peaceful invasion of joy, and they aren't wrong. But we must also look at the technical side of why this arrival is causing such a stir. Alexandra Eala isn't just a popular figure. She is a dangerous competitor. Her time under the tutelage of the Nadal family has given her a tactical maturity that belies her age. She plays a high IQ game, utilizing her lefty serve to pull opponents off the court and following it up with a ground game that is punishingly consistent. The shock in France is also a realization that a major threat has arrived on their soil. The French pride themselves on their clay court expertise. Yet here is a girl from the tropics who looks perfectly at home on the red dirt, backed by a crowd that will not let her lose without a fight. The 50,000 Pinoys ready slogan that has been trending isn't just a number. It's a logistical reality. The Filipino community in France is one of the most vibrant and tightly knit in Europe. They have spent weeks preparing for this. There are reports of custom-made jerseys, thousands of flags being imported, and even organized cheer rehearsals. This level of preparation is what has truly shocked the French people. They're used to seeing tourists. They are not used to seeing a coordinated, massive sporting support group for a single individual. It has forced the French public to acknowledge the sheer scale and influence of the Filipino people within their own borders. Furthermore, this arrival serves as a massive commercial wake-up call. Brands in France are suddenly realizing the marketability of Alexandra Eala. When you see 50,000 people showing up for an airport arrival, you aren't just looking at fans. You're looking at a massive, engaged consumer base. The Eala brand has officially gone global. From the luxury houses of Paris to the sportswear giants, everyone is now looking at the girl with the ponytail and the lethal forehand. She has bridged the gap between the Asian market and the European sporting heartland in a way that very few athletes ever have. We also have to consider the psychological impact on Eala herself. How does a young athlete handle this? Most would crumble under the pressure of 50,000 people expecting nothing less than a trophy. But if you look at the footage of her arrival, if you see the way she smiled and took the time to acknowledge the crowd despite the long flight, you see a woman who is fueled by this energy, not drained by it. She understands that she is the people's champion. The French media has noted her composure, calling it regal and unshakable. This is the rock star element, the ability to stand at the center of a storm and remain the calmest person in the room. As we look deeper into the 50,000 Pinoys aspect, we see a story of migration and connection. Many of the fans at the airport are overseas workers who haven't been back to the Philippines in years. For them, Alexandra Eala is a living piece of home. When they cheer for her, they are cheering for their own families, their own struggles, and their own successes in a foreign land. This emotional depth is why the arrival was so charged. It wasn't just about tennis. It was a homecoming for a whole community to the vessel of one athlete. The French public, seeing this, has gained a newfound respect for Filipino culture. It's a soft power victory of the highest order. The technical analysis of the upcoming matches also suggests that the shock is only beginning. If Eala can harness this airport energy and translate it onto the court, she becomes arguably the most dangerous unseeded or rising player in the draw. Tennis is 90% mental, and having 50,000 people ready to roar for every point you win is a psychological advantage that money can't buy. The French players are going to have to find a way to silence a crowd that has no intention of being quiet. This is the new reality of global tennis. The borders are breaking down and the fans are moving in force. In the coming days, as the tournament progresses, the Rockstar arrival will be cited as the turning point. It was the moment the world realized that the Philippines had arrived on the grandest stage of European tennis. It wasn't a quiet entrance. It was a loud, vibrant, and undeniable statement. The French are shocked because they didn't see it coming. They didn't realize that a girl from Manila could command the heart of Paris. They didn't realize that Pinoy power was a literal force of nature that could shut down an airport terminal and capture the imagination of a country. Every detail of her arrival, from the specific way she navigated the crowd to the messages on the banners, tells a story of a sport that is changing. The deep dive into this event reveals a landscape where the underdog is no longer alone. Alexandra Eala has the largest team in the world behind her. As she settles into her hotel and begins her final preparations, the echo of those 50,000 voices is still ringing through the streets of Paris. The French are watching, the world is waiting, and the Pinoys are ready. This is more than a sports story. It is a testament to the power of a nation's love for its hero. As we wrap up this look at what can only be described as a historic moment in sports history, it is clear that the arrival of Alexandra Eala in France is a milestone that will be talked about for years to come. What we witnessed at the airport was not just the beginning of a tournament. It was the beginning of a new era. For the 50,000 Filipinos who have pledged their support, this isn't just about watching a match. It's about participating in a moment of national pride that transcends geography. They have shown the world that no matter where a Filipino athlete goes, they never walk alone. The shock felt by the French public is a healthy one. It is a shock of realizing that the world is much smaller and the passion of the Filipino people is much larger than they ever imagined. Alex Eala now carries that energy with her. Every time she strikes a ball, every time she slides on clay, she does so with the strength of 50,000 souls pushing her forward. Whether she wins the final trophy or not, she has already won the most important battle. She has united a community, captivated a foreign nation, and proven that she is a superstar of the highest magnitude. The Rockstar arrival was just the opening act. The main performance is about to begin, and if the energy at the airport was any indication, we are in for something truly spectacular. To the French public who are still rubbing their eyes in disbelief, get used to it. The Philippines is here, Alex Eala is here, and the game will never be the same. To the fans, to the 50,000 who are ready to make their voices heard, your passion is what makes this sport beautiful. You have turned the tennis tournament into a celebration of identity and excellence. As the matches begin, keep that same energy. Keep showing the world what it means to be Pinoy. And to Alex, the girl at the center of it all, the world is watching. France is shocked, and your country is behind you every step of the way. This has been a deep dive into the arrival that shook Paris. The stage is set, the flags are flying, and the world is finally paying attention. Thank you for being part of this journey with us as we witness the rise of a legend. Until next time, stay tuned, stay passionate, and keep cheering for the champion of the Philippines. This is only the beginning.